All right, so welcome back. We're going to start in on some respiratory system physiology. All right. So the way we're going to get air into our lungs is it's going to deal with pressures, and we're going to be talking quite a bit about the different pressures both in the atmosphere as well as inside our bodies. So essentially, air will go from high pressure to low pressure areas. So when the pressure inside your lungs is less than atmospheric pressure, air is going to come into your lungs. Okay? And then basically when pressure is greater inside your lungs, you're going to breathe out. If this seems a little bit confusing to you, think of like an eyedropper or a turkey baster or something like that. That's basically how they operate, right? When you squeeze the bulb on an eyedropper, right, you're squeezing it, you're increasing the pressure, so you're going to squirt whatever liquid out. When you release that and it expands, you're going to suck things in. It's basically the same way as your lungs work. Okay, and just as a reminder to you, atmospheric pressure is measured as 1 atmosphere, that's 1 atm, or 760 mmHg. Right? And so basically the idea that we were just talking about with the eyedropper is based on something called Boyle's law. Okay? And basically Boyle's law states that as the size of the container decreases, pressure inside increases. Okay, so you can kind of see that. So size of the container decreases, volume decreases, pressure increases. Okay. All right. So during normal quiet inhalation, so that's you sitting there, nothing particular going on. The muscles that you're going to use, there's just two, and I know you've got a couple listed here, but we'll get to them in a second. So during normal quiet inspiration, the diaphragm, so the diaphragm kind of in this black outline, as well as the external intercostals are going to help lift the rib cage, right? So you can kind of see the diaphragm when you're inhaling goes from this position down, so it's expanding your chest cavity. Okay, and by expanding that chest cavity, the pressure falls and you inhale somewhere around 2 to 3 liters of air. Okay, now under expiration, again, quiet expiration, this is just you just sitting here or listening to this video, whatever. It's passive, there's no muscle action. Okay, so nothing is contracting, simply the external intercostals and the diaphragm are relaxing. Okay, again, simply recoil is going to help move air from inside your chest cavity, inside your lungs, out. Okay. Okay. Well, what about labored breathing? And this, by labored breathing, we mean anything from like, I don't know, you've got some sort of chest cold to you just ran or something like that. You physically exerted yourself. So in forced expiration, that's breathing out, right? Other muscles are going to help out as well. So abdominals are going to help force the diaphragm up. The internal intercostals will help depress the ribs, so move them down, again compressing that chest cavity. Right? All of those are going to help move air out of your lungs at a greater rate. And then with forced inhalation, again, if you've just been running, right, other muscles are going to help in. That's where these other ones come into place. The sternocleidomastoid, the scalenes, and even the pectoralis minor is going to help lift the chest up as you gasp for air. So just kind of think about that when you see someone really just after you've run or after you yourself have run, right, you actually see like their chest is heaving up and even they're kind of like their shoulders are even moving, right? Again, that's your body trying to expand your chest cavity, get more air into it. Okay. So here's just a summary of breathing of all these forces and stuff that we just talked about. So let's go through this really quickly. So during normal quiet inhalation, breathing in, the diaphragm and external intercostals contract. Right? During labored inhalation, sternocleidomastoid, scalenes, and the pectoralis minor are also going to help contract. So by doing that, the thoracic cavity increases in size, the volume of the lungs expands, which means that the pressure inside is going to decrease. So your atmospheric pressure, again, is 1 atmosphere or 760 mmHg. So the pressure inside your alveoli, I mean, it's not super less, but it is. It's less. It's enough to bring air into your lungs. Okay, so you've taken a breath in, and then you're going to breathe out. And again, during normal, quiet exhalation, just the diaphragm and external intercostals relax. That's it. Nothing's actually contracting. The muscles are simply relaxing. However, during forceful exhalation, like you just ran, the abdominal muscles and internal intercostal muscles are also going to contract. That's going to cause the thoracic cavity to decrease in size. And remember, according to Boyle's law, decrease in size causes an increase in pressure, and the alveolar pressure increases to 762 mmHg, greater than atmospheric pressure, and therefore you breathe out. All right, so hopefully that makes sense to you. We have this idea of compliance of the lungs. You may have heard of this term before. Compliance simply talks about how easy it is to basically inflate your lungs. Okay, so if your lungs have large compliance, or they're very compliant, I guess, it's very easy to breathe in and out. Excuse me, I'm about to sneeze. Okay, so if they're very compliant, again, easy to expand the chest wall, very easy to breathe. If you have low compliance, excuse me. Let me see if I can get my slide to advance. Come on, slide. If you have low compliance, it's difficult to expand the chest wall. So, you know, things that could affect your compliance are things like bronchitis, emphysema, you know, things like that. All right, airway resistance. Okay, so resistance to airflow will depend on your airway size. Basically, as you're breathing in, the size of your chest increases, the airway diameters will also increase. However, you can also have contraction of smooth muscles in the airways, like as occurs with asthma. We'll see that at the very end of this lecture series. And that causes a decrease in diameter. Obviously, it's much more difficult to breathe. Just some breathing patterns, some definitions. So if an individual is exhibiting normal breathing patterns at rest, you would say that they are exhibiting eupnea. Okay, their breathing exhibited eupnea. Okay, normal breathing rate and depth, so that it's not shallow, it's not rapid or anything. Apnea refers to breath holding, like you're not breathing. You probably have all heard of sleep apnea, where people don't breathe in their sleep, right? Dyspnea is painful or difficult breathing. So again, if someone's having difficulty breathing, like an asthma attack or something, you'd say that's dyspnea. And then tachypnea involves rapid breathing rate. Sometimes individuals will exhibit this just sitting there, you know, not under stressful conditions. Sometimes it indicates pain even. And then obviously sometimes you have a rapid breathing rate, but you just like ran up a flight of stairs. So it's you know, relatively normal, right? Okay. So let's talk about lung volumes and capacities. All right, so air volumes are exchanged during breathing, and the rate are measured with a spirometer. That's the actual machine. Or sometimes it's called a respirometer, and the recording is called a spirogram. Okay. The minute of volume of respiration is the total volume of air taken in during 1 minute. So that's your tidal volume. We'll see what that means in a second. Times about, this again is a textbook number, so however many respirations you take in a minute. And textbook number is 12. You breathe about 12 times a minute. And so your minute volume of respiration, how much you breathe in and out in 1 minute, is about 6,000 milliliters, or 6 liters of air. So let's take a look at this spirogram. Okay, so it kind of goes from right to left. So what you're seeing here basically is these smaller waves, so not this big one, but these smaller waves show normal breathing. So that's your normal breath in, breath out, breath in, breath out, breath in, breath out. So that's your tidal volume. And this tidal volume of 500 milliliters, again, is a standard textbook average. It will obviously vary depending on the individual. Okay, so then basically you take a normal breath in, you take a normal breath out, and then you could obviously take even more air into your lungs if you wanted to. So if you go to the doctor and they're like, I breathe normal, you breathe it normal. They're like, all right, take a big breath in. And so you do. take a big breath in, and then like, all right, breathe it all out. Right, and then breathe normal. Okay, that's basically what's happened. So this, what we call the amount above the tidal volume, so the amount of air you breathe in above the tidal volume, is called your inspiratory reserve volume. That's what's on reserve. That's the amount more you could do above that tidal volume. Okay, and these numbers that you're seeing here, the number that is in parentheses is the textbook average for women, and then the other numbers for men. Okay, and you know, not surprisingly, women tend to have smaller rib cages than men, so our volumes are going to be smaller. Now, if we add in tidal volume along with the extra that we can breathe in, so the absolute most you could breathe in, we call that the inspiratory capacity. That's what you can actually like breathe in. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. And then the amount that extra that you breathe out, we call that the expiratory reserve. So that's the extra you could breathe out if you really had to. And again, the same kind of idea, number in parentheses is for women. So we call the amount that the absolute most you could possibly ever breathe in, you know, after breathing everything out that you possibly ever could, we call that the vital capacity. Okay, so that's the absolute most air that you're going to be able to breathe completely in and completely out. Okay, there's some amount of air called the residual volume, that's this last piece here, that you cannot get out of your lungs. You just can't. There's going to be some amount of airway stuck in the trachea, stuck in the bronchi, stuck in the bronchioles, stuck in the, you know, respiratory bronchioles, and even in the alveoli. They don't completely go flat. That's the residual volume. You will never be able to breathe that out. Okay, it's not you don't create a vacuum inside of you. So again, that's residual volume. That's the amount that you can never breathe out, right? And then we call total lung capacity is everything we could breathe in and out, that vital capacity, plus that extra little bit that's still staying inside of us. That's total lung capacity, and that's where that 6,000 milliliters came from before. Right. So on a lecture exam, I will ask you about these definitions. You do not need to worry about memorizing these numbers. Okay. Yeah. If I ask you to calculate anything, I will actually give you the numbers to calculate. But more importantly, I just want you to know what these are. So again, tidal volume, normal resting breath, breath in, breath out. Inspiratory reserve is that extra that you could breathe in above tidal volume. Inspiratory capacity is inspiratory reserve plus tidal volume. Expiratory reserve is that extra that you could breathe out below tidal volume. Vital capacity is these three together, and then total lung capacity includes residual volume. All right. So hopefully that made sense to you guys. Please, again, feel free to email with any questions, and I will see you next lecture. See ya.